Welcome back to Common Sense Dog Talk. I'm Sam from Walk My Dog, and today we're about to talk about barking. It is one of my biggest pet peeves, and as much as I love dogs, I love silent dogs more. That is just not always the option, unfortunately, for a lot of breeds and for a lot of situations. I mean, everybody has somebody coming randomly over to their house, knocking the door, deliver a package, or just hanging out. And so this is to address that situation. And I'm gonna go over the casual situation to the more extreme, and that is because not every situation for barking is the same. I have 3 dogs, and so one only barks at the moon, typically a full moon, and at hot air balloons. Why, I have no idea. He's an English Mastiff, and as much as I love the guy, he's just a big dummy. I have another dog that barks at everything that moves fast, and that's because he's a small terrier, and that's what he's supposed to do. And then I have a third dog, my lead dog, my go-to dog, Willow, who you will meet in many more of these videos and have already many a times if you're on our Instagram or Facebook pages. Willow is a Rhodesian Ridgeback mix, super high energy, a heavy work dog. So she is built to work, built to go, and she is also ready to alert us when anything changes, comes around. Her response to our correction term of no tends to be fairly good. However, sometimes we catch it late and then she just keeps going. This is a realistic, like the name, common sense reaction or instructional about how to deal with this stuff, because you're going to hear people trying to sell you a zillion different things. The device I'm going to recommend to you for those who have extreme situations, I am not sponsored by, I have no endorsement whatsoever from them. And to be honest, if you want to go try something else, go ahead. I just know it works. I prefer training more than anything else. So if you want to get the best results from your dog, you have to spend time with it. And that's kind of the best solution for everything. Right now, I'm just being annoyed by my dogs who want to play fetch. So we got some dogs here just playing around. My dogs and another one as well. And so you're going to get interrupted a little bit by this. So first off, the most extreme. Let's just go with basically you're in a condo, you're in an apartment building, you're in somewhere where your dog is just being a super nuisance and you're probably going to get evicted, or your HOA is going to, basically start putting sanctions on you because your dog's so annoying. You need an actual response. You need right now. You cannot allow somebody to, like a trainer like myself, to waste your time charging you to say, you know what you need to do? You need to focus on this, need to focus on that. Nope, you need to get the answer right now, because realistically, this is imperative. And there is only one way that I have found to definitively get a dog to stop barking. It's a static electric bark collar. Yes, it uses a small little battery. This is the one I highly recommend. It is made by Dogtra. They make it in different sizes. This is the YS 600. This is for larger dogs, medium to large dogs. They make a YS 300 that is for small to medium dogs. Basically, the intensity is basically the difference on it. You have settings on it. They have little dials on it that basically indicate from P, which is pulsate, which is just a vibration, tends to work fine for, tends to make be more effective for most dogs. And then it goes all the way up to 10. And 10, I don't know. I don't set them ever to 10. I set them to 4. And that is basically what happens is it works off a ladder, I'll call it a ladder process. The first one is to vibrate. Your dog barks again, it goes to 1. Dog barks again, it goes to 2. Dog barks again, 3, and so on and up. By the time they get to 4, they get the point and they typically stop barking. In most situations, what happens is even the vibration scares them. A dog starts barking, and it basically goes on the front of a dog's neck. The 2 prongs that are actually located on this thing right here go right up around the dog's neck like this. You keep it nice and tight on the collar, and when they bark, it goes off. It requires no human interaction, and it does not have to worry about if you are being attentive to your dog or not. If you're home, you can put it on. If you're away, you can put it on. The only thing I recommend people to do is to not leave it on for any more than 8 hours at a time, because the knobs themselves can actually irritate the skin. But it stays on, but it doesn't do anything unless they bark. My dog Willow is a great example of you can whine all you want and it will never go off because it requires the vibration of a bark. Chewing, eating, stuff like that, not a problem. Drinking, not a problem. So a Dogtra, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. That's how I say it. D-O-G-T-R-A is the brand. Some of their stuff comes in cases like this. We use a variety of their products, whether it's training collars or tracking collars or even the e-collars, and that's because they just seem to make professional grade stuff that we can count on. I do not like citronella. I do not like just vibration. I have not seen consistency that would say, yep, that's worth trying, and I haven't seen another brand that I feel like holds up really well. These are water resistant and weather resistant, meaning your dog can be swimming and doing whatever you want and nothing seems to penetrate, nothing gets in there. We have never had one go bad on us. We've had one or two over the last 10 years where the batteries have eventually kind of worn out a little bit. They don't last very long. So we've had to replace the batteries, but you know, I think those are like 20 bucks to replace the battery. So over 10 years, I'll take it. However, what is the best way to work on it? Spending time with your dog. If your dog barks, you need to address it as fast as physically possible. Meaning your dog barks and you go over to them and you give them a corrective term and you stop them. Me, I like to use a calm but effective no. I don't like to use a stern no. I just like to use no. I walk over. And if they keep barking, then maybe I put them on a leash and I pull them away from the distraction. Maybe it's the door or a window, and I will continue to say no. The point of this, and you'll hear this repeatedly on a lot of our training stuff, is that a dog is a creature of habit. So what they do, if they don't get corrected by it, they repeat over and over. But if you correct it enough times and it's not abrasive, then what happens is it becomes, they understand the correction and they get a new behavior pattern, and that is to avoid doing that because they do not want the correction. That's a little convoluted way to put it, but basically they bark, you say no, they stop because you've done it enough times. Lesson learned. Sometimes what I'll also do is I'll tap a dog. If they're, say, by a window, a lot of dogs will go by a window, like a sliding door or something like that, and they'll see a squirrel or a bird, and they start barking. I'll just go over to them and I'll just tap them, or I might flick their ear really softly. And it's just to distract them and to redirect their attention to me. I just want them basically focused on me versus the distraction. But I never praise them when they stop, because the reality is that if I praise them after, what happens is they will think, they can get confused and think that that praise was so that they were supposed to do the behavior. When they're done, I tap myself on the back, go, great job. They stop barking, awesome. Sometimes it might take you to correct them 30 times, and sometimes it might take once. But the reality is if you keep up it really well, over time, the behavior will go away and it will lessen over time. But the concept only works if you are really effective and you are really attentive to it. So if your dog's barking for 2 minutes straight and then you go address it, you've already lost it. So don't get frustrated with your dog. You were supposed to be reactive to it. I will put it in this kind of context. If you have a toddler in your house and they're walking around upstairs and God forbid they fall down a flight of stairs, we're not going to blame the toddler. We're going to blame you because your job was to watch the toddler. You could have put in barriers like a gate or put them in their crib or whatever so they couldn't actually have access to the stairs to fall. But you didn't, and so your job is to keep an eye on them. When your dog barks and you know it's a problem, you're supposed to keep an eye on them. If they keep barking, then, well, guess what? You're actually allowing the behavior to happen, which means you're training the behavior to happen by ignoring them. So time is the way that you fix the problem. The more attentive you are and the faster you are to respond. It is not reactive, it is proactive. You want to be proactive situation. If your dog starts to stare at something and hyperfixates, kind of like that, you want to fix that and tell them no before they even bark, because you know it's coming. You know your dog. You know your dog better than I do. So tell your dog no, stop the behavior or what you think is going to be the behavior before it actually occurs, and you'll find yourself incredibly effective. If you wait for them to bark, you're too late. And yes, you should still be correcting them, but you're already too late. Like usual, guys, when you have questions, when you have thoughts about this or comments, certainly let us know. But that is the way, the two best ways to get yourself a dog that does not bark. You will inherently stop your dog over time from having the interest to bark by training them, but they still obviously can bark. So that's tricky if you're not around. However, it is the most effective way in training. Or number two, which is the most effective way, is to use a bark collar, because it's 100% guaranteed to be effective. However, you're using a consequence or a correction instead of actually training with your dog. But if you need a result right now, that's the way to go. Dogtra, DOGTRA, the YS300 or the YS600, not their vibration, not another one from another brand. It's well worth the investment if that's what your problem is. I promise you, peace of mind is better than anything else. They always say, like, if you have a baby in your house and it just is, you know, colicky and crying all the time, getting you sleep is important, because you need to be at your best when you're actually trying to work on a situation like that. Same with the barking dog. Trust me, I know it drives me nuts, because those two can bark. They can bark. And so when they get going, it drives me nuts as well. I'm very thankful that they listen to me rather well most of the time. But we all get pushed to our limits. I hope this information helps. If you like it, share it. If you don't, I really don't care, I guess. Anyway, leave a comment. Tell me that you think it's terrible. All right. See you next time. Take care, guys.